Hi, I'm Jo from J.H.Leather, and in this make-along video I'm going to be showing you how to create a leather luggage tag. Now the patterns for this are going to be available as a PDF pattern pack and as an acrylic template set, and will include both a standard and a mini size luggage tag, as well as two closure designs in the form of a loop or the corner pocket option. Now within the kits I have also included a little printout that you can use to make your own luggage tag inserts, or you can use the dimensions within those to send off and get some made up properly. Now in this video I'm going to be making the miniature luggage tag, but they are both made to the same methods. So let's get started. As I said, this kit is going to be available as a PDF pack and an acrylic template, so you want to get your patterns and then we can start making. So the one extra thing that we're going to need is a hole buckle, and the reason we're going for a hole one is because we don't need to use a loop, and sizes are included in the information pack. So grab your leather, which again information on that is in the information pack that comes with both the kits, and then we can start drawing around our patterns. So we're going to need two of the main tags, and then some of your enclosures. Now if you're going to be using the two corner pockets like I am here, you need to cut a pair of those, so flip your template over. Then what I like to do is actually cut out one of the main body pieces accurately, and then we'll trim the other once everything is stitched together. And so once you've got your main body cut out, you can cut out your closure. And also, if you don't want to have an enclosure on your tag, you don't have to. I just like to put one of these on just to stop any damage coming to the tag when it is in transit. So once those bits have been cut out, we can mark on our maker's marks onto the main body. So we're going to mark our stitching locations, the crew hole, as well as the tag cutout area. We are then going to use the smallest hole punch that we have, and for me that is on my rotary punch, and it is 2mm, and we're going to actually punch all the way through at the very top of that line that we have just drawn around, and this is going to stop the leather ripping on that tag cutout area of our luggage tag. Once we have done that on both top corners, we can then cut the tag out in between. So for this I'm using my straight edge skiving knife because it's actually very good for cutting straight lines like this, and I'm going to cut along those lines very carefully, making sure I stay on my mark and cutting into the hole. Once we've done all that, we can start looking at our strap. So what I'm going to do is actually glue two pieces of my leather together to reinforce it a bit, but it also means that I'm going to have two nice sides of my leather. So what I'm going to do is apply glue to both pieces, and then once that has gone tacky I can stick those together. I'm then going to cut a straight edge along one side before measuring that out, the width that I need, and cutting a strap. And once I've got my strap cut out, I can then cut that to length by marking on the point end and the sort of straight end at the end of the strap. You can also mark in the 3 holes, as well as your stitching guides and the crew hole for where the buckle is going to go through. And we can now cut around that point end, as well as cutting our strap to length. Using a hole punch that's going to fit the tongue of your chosen buckle, we can then punch the 3 holes on this strap. And then using an oblong or a screw punch, we can punch a hole for the buckle tongue at the turn end of our strap. Now we've done that, what we can do is actually start to do some fancying up. So we're going to first go around each of these with a creaser. And once we've done our creasing, we can start to add some colour to the edges of our leather. So what I'm going to do is actually put my edge paint around the cutout part of my luggage tag, as well as along both sides of my strap and on my 2 retaining parts. And once that has had time to dry, we can start to do some assembly work. So what I'm going to do is mark out roughly where the stitching is going to be on my main luggage tag. And then I'm going to put a tiny amount of glue around this area. Now, we don't want to put too much on because we don't want to stick those sides down fully, because else we're not going to be able to get our name tag in. And we're going to put glue on both the backing and the front of our luggage tag. Once the glue has gotten tacky, you can then stick both pieces together. Now, if you need to, you can grab your template and you can mark on those 2 stitching guides that we did earlier, just in case they have faded. And once you have marked those on, you can set your dividers to your stitching width and draw a line between these 2 points. We can then follow that with our chosen stitch marker. So for me, I'm using 3.38mm, which is one of my favourite sizes to use. And we're going to stitch mark all the way through. Now, you will have noticed that I haven't actually attached my 2 retaining parts yet, and it's up to you. You can either put those on before you do your stitch marking, or you can do that after, which is what I do in this case. Now, like I said, I put my attachments on afterwards, so I'm going to put a tiny amount of glue around the outer edge of these and on to the main tag. And then when tacky, I can attach the 2 retainers on. I can then grab my divider, which is still set to my stitching width, and draw around the edges of these, and then follow that with my stitch marker. Now we've done all that, we can start stitching. So I'm going to be using the saddle stitch or double hand stitching method, and I've started with 2 back stitches because I'm going to finish with 1.5 back stitches. Now, like I said earlier, I have stitch marked all the way through this leather. However, I like to still use an awl just to open up my stitch holes to allow my needle to come through more easily. Now, you don't need to do that if you don't want to. This is just my preferred option when stitching. Once you finish your stitches, you can then trim the ends of your threads, and depending on what you're using, you can either melt them down if you're using a poly thread, or if, like me, you're using linen, you can put a little bit of PVA glue on the back just to hold them in place. You can then tap your stitching flat, and we can then trim off the excess leather from our backing piece. before sanding the edges nice and flush, ready for our finishing touches. We can then apply our stain, or like me, I'm applying edge paint to this because I find this is a better finish for this particular leather that I am using. And you can do this in multiple layers to get the best edges you can. Once we've done that, we can then go around with our creaser, or if you prefer, you can do your creasing first. This is totally up to you. The final thing we need to do to this luggage tag is to put a hole in the top that our strap can go through. So I'm going to mark this onto my luggage tag once again, and then because I don't have a crew punch that is small enough, what I'm going to do is put a circular hole at either end of that and then cut in between these 2 points. And you can use this if you don't have a crew or an oblong punch in any size for any sort of application that you need one that you don't have the size for. So like I said, I've got my 2 circular cuts, and now I'm going to be using a sharpened screwdriver to cut the slit in between these 2 points to make the oblong hole for my strap to actually pass through. Once we have done that, we can then start to focus on our strap. So we can mark on our stitching location and draw our line between those points. Now this is quite close to the edge because this is a very small strap, and then we can stitch mark this as well. Now I'm choosing just to stitch mark on the one side of this. If you wanted to, you can stitch mark all the way through, and once glued you can then go over this again if you are not wanting to use an awl. So once you've done your stitch marking, we are then going to skive the back side of our turn down to half thickness, and then we can apply some glue. Once our glue has gone tacky, we can now fit our buckle. And once we've done that, we can now start to stitch this. So we are starting with 1 to 2 back stitches, and we're going to finish with 1.5 back stitches on each end. Now once you've done your stitching, you can tap your threads flat with a small hammer. And then we're going to do some finishing touches. So with a piece of sandpaper, we're just going to sand the edges of our turn to get them nice and flush, and then reapply our edge paint or stain. And you can also go over this with a creaser at this point. Now the final thing to do is insert the ID card for your luggage tag. Now I've just used a plain one here, but included in the pattern packs are a design that you can print out at home or send off to a printer to get cut for you that you can use within these tags. And once you've done that, you can now fit your strap onto your luggage tag. and you should now have something that looks like this. That is it, you have completed your luggage tag. Now I hope you enjoyed watching and you learned something new, and if you did, please click that thumbs up button, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing for more videos and tutorials, and I shall see you in the next one. Now within the pack there are the and an acrylic template sate. Oh dear. Once you have finished making the wallets, not wallets. Oh, just subscribing for, oh no, for materials.